Hey everyone, welcome back. It's episode 16 of the Horns Up Podcast, your weekly catch-up on all things metal. I am your host, Dan Kaplan, coming at you with a solo show this week. As you may recall from episode 15, we sent Corey off. He traveled to Germany. He made his pilgrimage to the Wacken Open Air Festival, something he's been trying to do for a long time, and I'm sure, he's off in a field in northern Germany just getting his face melted off by, 120-something bands? I'm more than a little bit jealous of him right now, being stuck here in Brooklyn and everything. But because I'm stuck here in Brooklyn, we've been able to keep the blog going. We've been able to keep the podcast going. It's been busy, I'm not going to lie, but we're coming at you with Horns Up stuff on a regular basis, even though our co-host is over in Germany. For this week's podcast, we're going to do a little bit of a different format. It's going to be shorter, obviously, because there won't be as much back and forth. It'll pretty much only be forth. And we're not going to spend as much time on the topics. We won't do any headlines because, frankly, there were too many headlines this week to really pick and choose from. You saw them all in quickies. I can't really pick just four. It wouldn't seem fair. There were so many crazy, just ridiculous developments, whether it was the Nachtmystium being resurrected or the drama with Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater over a fan wearing a post-Portnoy Dream Theater album t-shirt. It was just a lot. There was so much we could rag on, and so I decided to avoid that problem and just skip it all together. Going to skip the retrospectives, going to skip the Horns Up, Horns Down. Really, all I'm going to do this week is touch on a couple of new album highlights that I have been keeping in rotation. It's a couple of black metal releases. Funny enough. What a surprise. I'm going nuts for black metal. But yeah, we'll do those. And then after that, we have a fun new segment we're going to do called Have You Found Metal? Think of this as, metal evangelism. You ever had someone knock on your door and have, holding a Bible in their hand and say, have you found Jesus yet? Well, we're going to do that, but with metal. I have my good friend Kevin Brown on for a conversation earlier this week. And basically, I had put together a playlist for him to try and just see if I could spark his interest in any bands, any albums, songs within this crazy genre that we all know and love so much. Covered a variety of subgenres, about 7 or 8 songs, and we just got his reactions to what he was hearing. Now it was a fun listen. I don't know if we were able to convert him over fully, but we had fun with it, and you'll get that at the very end of this episode. For now, let's start off with those new releases that I touched on earlier, a couple of black metal albums for you. First up, we have a new one called Roads to the North from the Louisville, Kentucky atmospheric black metal project Panopticon. This is the 5th full length from, it's actually just one guy, it's Austin Lunn, under the name Panopticon. And this thing, it's kind of like folk black metal, but not in the way that we're used to. I know Corey and I do a lot of folk metal with European folk influences, Celtic influences. This is more Americana folk. You hear banjos on this record. You hear fiddles on this record. You hear elements of bluegrass on this record. At the same time, it has a very relentless traditional black metal feel at times. It's very technically proficient, and it makes really good use of those non-native black metal instruments, whether it's the fiddle, whether it's the banjo, you name it. They shine through really well, and they add just a different element to the black metal palette than I've heard before personally. Some really good stuff. You have a song like Where Mountains Pierce the Sky, which opens solely with fiddle and flute. It's a very pretty, just calm combination and a complete contrast to a lot of the black metal you hear. But then it gets heavier, and even when it does, you still hear these amazing melodies shining through. There's a 3-part epic called The Long Road, which deals in straight up Americana bluegrass. There's some heavier parts, some more Sigur Rós type stuff at the end of it. Really, really incredible combination. I enjoyed the hell out of that one. It's just it's a really stunning blend of these folk influences with the harsher, the more grim and frostbitten, tremolo-picked traditional black metal sound. I would argue that it's so successful. It is as successful in blending folk influences with metal as Deaf Heaven was last year in blending shoegaze influences with metal. It's just a very just enthralling listen. It's a hard album not to listen to in full because you just don't want to stop playing it. There's something really incredibly uplifting about it. And I have to say my hat is off to Austin Lunn. This is, as I've scored it, this is my top scoring metal album this year. It just edges out Agalloch. Incredible stuff. I know people really liked his previous album, Kentucky. This is definitely going to be one that I will dig into as well because I had never heard of Panopticon before this. I mean, people were making noise about it. I will admit, I didn't dig this deep into the metal scene before. But now that I've been afforded this opportunity to listen to Roads to the North, you can bet I'm going to go back and listen to Kentucky, to his previous catalog. Seriously, the album is Roads to the North. The band or the artist is Panopticon. Again, it's just one guy. It's Austin Lunn. Check it out. It's really a tremendous listen. You will not regret the time you spent. Beyond that, we move into an album from a Tennessee black metal quartet called Oubliette. The album is Apparitions. It's their first full-length album. This is a relatively young band. I think they only formed in 2011. It's their first full-length album. It's out on the Artisan Era. And this is another really terrific melodic black metal record. Interestingly enough, we have a chick singer, female vocalist Emily Lowe, who really, she just gets guttural with the best of them. This is a female lead singer who fully holds her own in a black metal band, and I have to give her a tip of the hat. Her performance is incredible here. The one thing I noticed is the melodic elements are woven in really well. Whether it's in, the blast beaty, more traditionally black metal sounding sections, or in, other calmer parts, or more, non-traditional, more riff oriented stuff that you don't always hear in black metal. The melody shines through and it's fantastic. There's a song called The Fog that is just absolutely devastating. It's heavy. It's a stunning composition. It's also just a very sad tune. I feel like this is it's a very atmospheric album. It's an all-encompassing sound. And it's an album that really handles changes in feel very well from song to song. We have a couple of longer songs here, a couple in the 7-8 minute range, and they change it up a bit. Sometimes you'll start off going one way and the song will change direction, and it's all very tastefully handled. It's very well done. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It's definitely a band I want to keep my eyes on going forward. Again, the band is Oubliette. The album is Apparitions. It's out now on the Artisan Era. Check it out. Just phenomenal listen. Not quite as high scoring as Panopticon, but pretty high up on my list. I would say it's if not top 10, then just outside the top 10 for my metal list so far this year. Very, very good stuff from Oubliette. So with that said and done, we're going to get into our Have You Found Metal segment. I'm going to bring Kevin Brown on just in just a minute. Again, this was recorded earlier in the week. We're going to try and get him into metal. 7 songs, about half an hour's worth of music. You will see we're going to go through it song by song. And these are my efforts to win him over to the heavier things in life. Will I succeed? I don't know. Take a listen. Kevin Brown, welcome to the podcast. How are you, sir?
It is a great pleasure to be here. I am great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Have you listened to Horns Up at all? This is not to put you on the spot. I'm curious as a practitioner of the heavier things in life. Or have you partaken in any Horns Up?
Oh, you've totally put me on the spot. I've read the website and the blog. This is my first podcast experience, though.
Wonderful. Well, yeah. There's a first.
I hope you
time.
don't eject me immediately now.
Oh, absolutely not.
Kevin, welcome. Have you listened to our podcast? No, you suck.
Goodbye. No, that's the whole thing. A lot of what we do on the podcast, as you know, is like pretty metal focused. So if you're not a metal listener, you know, like it's hard to really relate to that kind of stuff, which is why we have you here now. Or have you found metal? We've put together I believe it was a 7-song playlist.
Yes.
Is that correct? 7 songs, about half an hour worth of metal of all subgenres. And we are going to indoctrinate you into the cause, I suppose, which sounds really creepy and scientific.
Some sort of cult Stanley Kubrick movie.
Yeah. But so you're not a metal devotee per se, but yeah, I know we've listened to some harder rocking stuff. We've been able to bond over some harder rocking stuff in the past, have we not?
Absolutely. My taste diversify. I hate to say like I'll listen to anything because that's what somebody says when they don't really listen to that much music. Like, oh, I'll listen to anything. I don't listen to country or really reggae for the most part. We've listened to some harder stuff. I'm not a big metal guy, and much of it is probably the vocals, especially the harder, growlier, death metalier vocals.
Valid.
But it's not something I'm totally opposed to. I just, I believe it was Deaf Heaven's Sunbather was the big metal album of last year.
That was the crossover success.
Yeah, and that was an album that I got into musically, but never really got into vocally. It was a little too intense for me, and I probably should give it another shot, but that's sort of where I'm at. I appreciate most of the instrumentals, if not really all in those sorts, but it's been the vocals that in many cases have held me back. This playlist, however, this was a pretty good mix, and I end up finding myself much more of a fan than I was before.
Very
so
cool.
I believe I'm starting to find, if I'm not yet found.
There we go. Well, we will go track by track down the list in just a few minutes. I have to point out, though, speaking of heavier things that we have bonded over, you and I, it's coming up on, I believe, Wednesday. It'll be 5 years since we saw AC/DC at Giant Stadium, back when it was still Giant Stadium, before MetLife was even built. And I have to say, because Highway to Hell turned 35 years old today.
That's amazing.
Were you aware of that?
That seems impossible. No, and it's funny because last night I couldn't fall asleep, and for one reason or another, I ended up on AC/DC's Wikipedia page and was just going through old AC/DC albums and the history of Bon Scott's life, and I was on a strange AC/DC kick last night, and I didn't even put together that it was 5 years since. That's amazing. What a show that was. What a terrific show. Big stadium.
AC/DC, Anvil, and The Answer.
Yes. The Answer, who I hope The Answer haven't come up on Horns Up. They were just a truly egregious mix of a bunch of things. And then Anvil, just the cheesiest, 80st, hair metaliest band. But AC/DC were great, and I'm hoping that Brian Johnson and the band can get this 40th anniversary tour together, and I will be there wherever I can be, if so. Yeah.
Well, they all signs point to them getting it done, so we shall see. But I couldn't not bring that up since we were going to be talking about hard rock, metal, fun stuff.
That was a great show. Next time, if we go to one of the 40th anniversary shows, we are getting the glowing red devil horns, though. Because we were minorities in the crowd. We're not having the glowing red devil horns.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I was shocked that became that much of a thing, but we will have to partake next time. So let's move into the playlist. Our Have You Found Metal Episode 1 playlist on Spotify, and I will be posting this later on this week, folks, on the Horns Up blog. But kicking off, we have a track from Carcass, one of my favorite death metal bands. And it's the opening track from one of their probably their best known album, Heartwork. Song is called Buried Dreams. Now, what'd you think of this one?
I thought this was a good opener, good instrumentals, sounded like a good song to open a concert. It really builds the tension, good bass. Vocals weren't egregious. I wasn't crazy about the vocalist here, whatever his name is, Mr. Carcass.
that would be Jeff Walker.
Jeff Walker, which is like a really normal name. It was in that halfway range between I can deal with this totally and I don't want to deal with this totally. Solid opener, not the most memorable of the songs now that I'm looking back at the playlist and trying to recall exactly how it went, but at the time I remember saying, okay, this first minute or so, this is like a good kick into this playlist.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mention album openers, because while it does open the album, it also they have frequently opened their live sets with it. In fact, we saw them last year, Kevin Davis, Corey, and I at Maryland Death Fest, and they opened with this song, and then Jeff Walker proceeded to banter with the audience by talking about the weather and old man things, and it was most amusing because
How old is he?
he's only I think he's 44, maybe 45. Not that old. Because this record came out when they were still in their 20s, their early 20s.
Really?
But yeah, he's just his banter on stage is just very. It's like, oh, we came all the way over here from Liverpool, and we brought the rain with us. Ha ha ha. And I'm just.
He sounded like he almost could have taken the vocals to another level. In terms of like if you wanted to be sort of death metalier, there's probably a better term than that, but he was holding back a little bit. But instrumentally, again, this was a great track, and I would love to hear it before banter about the rain.
Absolutely. Well, I was going, in terms of getting heavier with it, I was torn between this one and a track from their recent reunion album called Cadaver Pouch Conveyor System, which is actually a really awesome song, and he gets quite a bit more guttural on it than on this thing. But ultimately, Buried Dreams won out because I think it had more album or playlist opening potential. So
I give it a solid B minus.
Okay.
B minus to B.
Very good. Very good. So moving on from Buried Dreams, next up on the playlist we have. Oh, it's so cheesy, but it's so wonderful. We have Blind Guardian, the German power metal legends, with their song Mirror Mirror.
Yes.
What did you think of this one?
I don't know if this is going to surprise you or totally not shock you at all. This is my favorite song on the playlist, I think. I just love this song.
This song, when I first heard this song, this is going back like 10 years now, this was what turned me on to Blind Guardian. It's so catchy.
First of all, it sounds Irish, and then I discovered they're a German band. I thought I heard like some Irish tones in here. Secondly, this album is called Nightfall in Middle Earth.
Oh, yes.
Are you kidding me? Of course, I love this song. Automatically,
this is a concept album based on the Silmarillion.
Are you serious?
Nope, 100% serious.
Oh my god! Now I love the song even more. It made me very happy listening to this song.
Blind Guardian is the ultimate nerds band. I mean, they've done concept albums about Tolkien. They've done individual songs about the Song of Ice and Fire series, about Game of Thrones and stuff like that. They've done just all manner of ridiculously cheesy, nerdy stuff, but they're so much fun that I just love them.
I want to listen to so much Blind Guardian now. Like, I want to just develop entire Spotify playlists of Blind Guardian.
They're pretty fantastic. Unfortunately, Spotify's catalog is a little bit limited when it comes to Blind Guardian. They have their last two studio albums and like a couple of best of tracks from only from those eras, from that era, unfortunately. But I can send you some YouTube stuff if you're
Are
interested.
they a thing? Are they still a thing? Do they play? Are they around?
Oh,
Do they
yeah,
tour?
they're very much. In fact, they are one of the headlining bands this year on 70,000 Tons of Metal in the Metal Cruise in January, which Corey and I are seriously contemplating going to check out. No, they're very much a thing. They're actually working on a new album as we speak. So hoping for more from them.
I'm really sold on Blind Guardian. I was in like 40 seconds into the song.
They did. They've done some interesting stuff over the years as well. In addition to like the nerdy power metal stuff, they did a cover of Inagata Devita, a much shorter. It's like only a 3.5 minute version of Inagata Devita. They've also done what else? Well, the singer Hansi Kirsch, is in another band called Demons and Wizards, and they did kind of like a power metal cover of Cream's White Room, which is also really awesome. So I'll send you some stuff. I think you might like these guys.
I'm so sold. I actually feel bad about the rest of the songs because I don't like any of these songs as much as Blind Guardian.
Hey,
It
you know
just
what?
made me so happy.
You gotta play favorites sometimes. It is what it is. So I'm glad you like that one. Mirror Mirror, Blind Guardian from their seminal power metal album, Nightfall in Middle Earth. Moving on, we have a track from the Baltimore band Misery Index, who Corey and the guys and I saw at Maryland Death Fest just this year. Misery Index, the song is Conjuring the Cull from their recent album, The Killing Gods. What'd you think of this one?
I thought it sounded like System of a Down on steroids. That was my first impression, to be honest.
It's an interesting take.
Yeah, I imagine this guy in the McDonald's drive-thru, and it makes me laugh. Like, God, I have a 6-piece. Another one, I enjoyed the instrumentals. I don't think I could take an entire album of this guy's voice, but for what it was, I enjoyed it, and it got out just in time. What is a cull? What does this title mean? What is Conjuring the Cull? I decided I was going to look this up, and then I figured it would be better to leave the mystery alone.
I'm not sure. Because the first, really, probably the first 10 or so listens that I gave to this album, I didn't even pay attention to it because I thought it was Conjuring the Call, like C-A-L-L.
Yeah, that's what I typed into Google at first.
Yeah.
And then it was like, did you mean Conjuring the Cull? I'm like, no, I didn't.
And
apparently I did.
Well, and it's funny because I mainly know cull as a verb, like to cull the herd.
Sure.
But apparently cull also refers to, according to Google's definition, which I have up right here, a selective slaughter of wild animals, or an inferior or surplus livestock animal selected for killing. So that is what is being conjured, which sounds very metal. to be fair.
Perfectly unclean right now, to be honest.
Animal sacrifice? Come on.
I'd take a shower.
That's totally metal. But this one actually, Misery Index, I haven't been as into them in the past, but this album in particular, Corey and I are both pretty high on it. It's been one of our favorite new releases of the year, and this is probably my favorite on the album. So, figured I'd include it.
I give it 4 out of 10 Blind Guardians.
4 out of 10 Blind. Are we scoring the rest of these in terms of Blind Guardian?
We might be. Yeah,
is that how it's gonna go?
That might be a thing.
Alrighty, cool. Well, 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10 for a straight up death metal band from Baltimore. For a non-metal listener like you, I'll take a 4 out of 10.
Could have been worse.
That's fine. Moving on, we're gonna go to a Judas Priest song. If you're in the U.S., it's the title track from their 1979 album Hell Bent for Leather. If you are outside the U.S., it is just a song from the album, which is in other territories known as Killing Machine. Don't know why that's a thing, but at any rate, the song is Hell Bent for Leather. Classic heavy metal, Judas Priest, obviously legends. What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, this was very good. This was one of those songs I listened to, and I immediately said, I need to listen to this band more. I've caught Judas Priest, obviously, here and there because they're famous enough, and they come on the radio now and then, and people listen to them now and then. And, it's hard to avoid Judas Priest if you're a rock fan in any kind, especially a harder rock fan. So, yeah, I listened to this and I said, this is good, this is catchy, this moves well, this sticks in your head, it's 2 minutes and 40 seconds or something like that. I should listen to more Judas Priest. That's pretty much it. Simple, effective, powerful without being overly dramatic. I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was torn between a couple. Like I wanted to get one of the classic bands, whether it was Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or something like that, on this list. And I went with Priest because obviously, like, Rob Halford is just a legend as a vocalist. And I had a couple of other options that were, more impressive displays of his range as a vocalist. But I figured this one was a good place to start. It's just it's simple to the point. Classic heavy metal song, and he gets a little wail in at the end there, so he does. Yeah, he shows off a little bit. He's restraining throughout, and then he shows off a little bit at the end. I think the guy has something like a 4, maybe even 5 octave range. I mean, he's pretty incredible when you think about it. And he's actually held up really well. Unlike, someone like Iron Maiden, like Bruce Dickinson, their singer is just, you can tell when you see him live these days, he's kind of struggling to hit those high notes.
It's been better.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, Judas Priest, Hellbent for Leather. How many Blind Guardians are we giving this one?
I give this 7.5 out of 10 Blind Guardians.
All right. Good to hear. Very, very respectable score.
Yeah, high score.
Yeah. Moving on, we have this. Actually, this might be my favorite on the list. It is my favorite from this particular band, without question. We're moving on to Amorphous and their song Sampo, which kind of a progressive metal, I guess is the way to call it. They were previously straight death metal, and have since gone on to a more melodic approach. What'd you think of this one?
Well, I read a little bit about them after the song, and read that they were more death metal-y, and then moved to this more melodic, progressive sort of sense. And I thought,
you can kind of hear at times in this song the growly vocals and the
there's
hints
a growly
of it, right?
kind of breakdown about 3.5-4 minutes in. I thought this really worked. First of all, any song that opens with piano is good for me because I play piano. This was really, really well done. The melodies in this song were just so strong. It soars. It has this sort of majestic album opening feel. I love the song. This was pretty close to the Blind Guardian one, to Mirror Mirror. I would give this 9.3 out of 10 Blind Guardians.
9.3. What are you, Pitchfork?
I am Pitchfork. I would totally listen to more Amorphous, and I probably will, in fact.
Yeah. The vocal performance on that. I mean, their singer is a guy named Tommy Jutson, and he's so versatile because he came in relatively late into their career. They were, I want to say, 8 or 9 albums in when he joined the band, and he can do all of their early stuff, but he can also do this clean melodic stuff that they got into later on. And it's just, it's like you said, he really soars as a vocalist. That's been what's, kept pulling me back to this song, 5 years on from when it first came out. So
has the whole album sort of like this in terms of the vocals?
Skyforger, it's for the most part. Yeah. There are some songs that are, like this one, for example, the clean vocals are the majority, and then you get a bit of the growly vocals. There are some songs where that's flipped, where the growly vocals are the majority, and then they get like a really awesome, killer, clean chorus. But for the most part, I think I wouldn't even have any question that this is my favorite Amorphous album. And for the most part, I think it's very listenable. It's pretty accessible for non-fans. So I can definitely make a playlist for you. Send that your way as well. I think the whole thing's on the Spotify. So
yeah, Skyforger and then Nightfall and Middle Earth are the 2 albums that I left this list saying I'd like to check out.
Yeah.
So very impressive.
Good. So we our verdict is 9.3.
9.3
Blind Guardians.
Blind Guardians. Yes.
All right. Very cool. Moving on, our next song on the list, we have something very, very near and dear to my heart. I've told you about this one because while it says Strapping Young Lad was the former brainchild of my Lord and Savior, Devin Townsend. And
Let the record show that Dan is wearing a Devin Townsend Project shirt right now.
I am indeed. This was well planned. Strapping Young Lad, the song is Love from the Alien album. Pretty much widely considered Strapping Young Lad's best album, or one of their best albums. What'd you think of this one?
I forgot to take notes on this one, which is not good. I liked it quite a bit at the time. I thought it got better as it went along. I thought the start was a little slow, and now I can't remember much more of it because I forgot to take notes, and the melody didn't quite stick in my head the way that Sampo or Mirror Mirror or Hellbent for Leather did. So I need to listen again because I do love what I've heard from Devin. But at the time, I remember I'd give this something like 6.5, 7 out of 10 Blind Guardians.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'm looking at my notes. I forgot to take notes on this. I don't know why I would do that. I just assumed that I would fall in love because it was Devin Townsend.
This one for me, this is one where I don't actually think it's one of Devin's better vocal performances, and that's honestly like a lot of the time that's why I love him so much. Is just he's got such an amazing range as a vocalist, particularly as a heavy vocalist, an extreme metal vocalist. But this one, what hooks me in more than anything, like the riff and the combination of the intro riff and those like double kick drum patterns that what's his name plays, that Gene Hoglan plays. It feels like it's, I don't even know how to describe it. It feels like it's like pummeling you little by little. It's like, it's just, it really gets me going. So that for me has always made this thing stand out. But yeah, go back and listen to it. Brush yourself up on some heavy Devi. Have you? Because I know it's breaking from the list here for a second. I know why. I think it was a couple of years ago now. I put together that Intro to Townsend YouTube playlist.
You put like a 15 song or so together playlist.
Yeah. Did you ever get through that? I remember you had started it. But
I did. I really enjoyed it. And now that you mention it, I probably haven't listened to it since then. It was great. And I think I got stuck on like watching the Vampira music video 5 times in a row and just the dancing that Devin does.
It's an all-time great music video.
Yeah. I don't know what he was on at the time.
It's straight up wonderful. Well, I mean, yeah, he was probably on all kinds of stuff because that was before he got sober. So
I believe it.
Yeah. So he used to be, and he's still, don't get me wrong, he's still quite a character. If you watch the video for one of the songs actually from this album, from Epic Loud, a song called Lucky Animals, you could look at that, and this was just made a couple of years ago, well after he got sober, but you could look at that and not be unreasonably, out of bounds if you were to assume he was on drugs when he made that video.
Right.
So, he's a character through and through. And while I prefer his solo stuff to Strapping Young Lad in general, I still love love. So we'll give that, I guess we'll give that 6.5 tentative Blind Guardian.
Yeah, it's a tentative. It's a tentative note.
That might be adjusted for inflation later on.
Yeah, sure. That could go up.
So, alrighty. And moving on to number 7, our last track on this list, we have In Flames with Only for the Weak, which in an ideal world, it would be a hit single, but we are not in an ideal world. This is from their 2000 album Clayman. What'd you think of this one?
You're not going to like me on this one. I wasn't crazy about this song. Maybe it's because it was the last song and I was a little tired by the end.
You were just metaled out?
Yeah, it got to about 2.5 minutes in, and I just found it to get a little bit repetitive, and the final 2 minutes were sort of the same thing, and the slow fade out. This didn't really stick for me. There was nothing much vocally or instrumentally that compared to some of the other songs stood out quite as much, I thought. So I have to give this 3.6 out of 10 Blind Guardians.
Wow.
And I regret giving it a low score because of the praise you have talked up. But yeah, maybe if this was second in the playlist, I would have liked it more.
Well, I'll be frank with you here. I mean, a lot of people, you're far from the only one who hasn't liked this song, whether metal fans or not metal fans. This one's commonly thought of as a the beginning of like sellout Blind Guardian. This is another band that used to be very much like death metal, melodic death metal, but still a much heavier palette. And this was when they started to veer towards a more mainstream sounding approach. And I like it because I'm a sucker for hooks, and this one's got it. But I know a lot of metal fans and not metal fans who aren't nuts about this one. So no hard feelings for the 3.5 Blind Guardians. Actually, now that I think about it, we've been giving all these songs Blind Guardians. What if you had to go with Carcass? If you had to give Carcass a score on the Blind Guardians, what would you think?
I'd give Carcass.
Since that came before the standard by which all of these are measured.
I'd give Carcass similar to Love. I'd give it 6.5 out of 10. Blind Guardians.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good.
Yeah. So my power rankings: Mirror Mirror would be 1. Sampo, Hellbent for Leather, then it's some sort of Carcass Love mix, then Conjuring the Call, then Only for the Week.
Okay. Okay. Overall thoughts. A survey, like a brief survey of metal with this playlist. What did you say if you had to recap your experience?
I found myself, I think, more drawn to the songs with the big melodies, maybe the more obvious ones, but that Sampo has these sort of lush instruments, and Mirror Mirror, which obviously is like cheesy and crazy German, but I found myself more attached to that and any sort of music recently, just the big time melodies, and I very much enjoyed those two. Priest to me was pretty easily accessible, as was Love. Carcass instrumentally accessible, vocals again okay, and then Conjuring the Call and Only for the Week are the ones that I would probably shy away from more the next time. But a lot of great melodies here, and just a nice diverse mix that I think credit to you for putting that together, because really no two songs sound anywhere near the same, and they're all really distinctly different. And they're 7 different songs, and they seem to be sort of 7 different subgenres of metal.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm trying to get at here is, so many people, so many non-metal listeners, when you talk about metal, they think it's one thing, whether, which
Sure.
In reality, it's calling something metal these days is like calling something rock. It's like, what does that mean? I mean, you've got, we didn't even get into, there's black metal, there's industrial. I mean, we there are still hundreds upon hundreds, maybe not hundreds upon hundreds, but literally tens of other subgenres that were untapped by this this list. And so that's what I'm trying to do with this, is just, have fun with it and maybe shock a few people, but also, kind of show them that there's more to this crazy little genre than meets the eye. So
yeah, my idea is always, it's always been, when I've heard metal, my brain has generically headed toward the heavier stuff. Mm-hmm. And the stuff that's more harder to digest, and that's not really the case. It shouldn't be. I don't think that's a catch-all word in any way. And it's the same, like you said, with rock. AC/DC is considered rock, and now Imagine Dragons are considered rock. I mean, it's just nowhere near the same thing. And I'm starting to get at that sort of idea with this playlist, is that these songs are just all so distinct, and to fit them under one umbrella seems sort of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we thank you. I thank you. Corey's not here, obviously, but I thank you for your open...
He would thank me.
He would. I'm sure he would. I thank you for your open-mindedness. I had fun coming up with the list, and I certainly had fun getting your, listening to your thoughts and everything. I hope you had fun listening to it as well.
Yeah, I'm excited for Have You Found Metal too, because this was a great list. So I'm excited to see what else you dig up.
I'm gonna go. I think I'm going to try, and in future editions, I'm going to try and subject someone a little bit less open-minded. I mean, you're a pretty open-minded guy in general. I'm going to try and find someone who's very set in their ways and very much like, no, I no metal, no, never, no metal. And
yeah, that's not me. I mean, I'm happy, listening to Hall & Oates and immediately going to Kanye West or something like that.
Yeah.
And thrilled to do so. So. Yeah, I figured that you would be, your musical tastes are always sharp enough that I never quite doubted that this would be a playlist I would mostly enjoy. But I did.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir. What have you, outside of the metal world, what have you been listening to lately? Anything fun catch your radar?
Well, we're recording this on a Sunday, and on this Tuesday, in 2 days, I'm off to see Soundgarden and Nine Inch Nails with a good friend and former roommate of yours, Alex Brewer.
Yes, sir.
So I've been quite frequently revisiting Super Unknown and Bad Motor Finger and then the Downward Spiral. So I've sort of been stuck in those two right now, stuck in 1994 and 1992. Just getting caught up and sort of refreshed for this show, which in terms of nostalgia will be great, but I am excited to see what Nine Inch Nails bring to the table, having just seen them recently with an 8-piece group, and now Reznor stripped down to 4 for this leg of the tour. So I'm really fascinated as to how he's going to do that. Yeah, it's him. It's Robin Fink on guitar. It's Ilan Rubin on drums and Alessandro Cortesini on keyboards. And that's it. And no bass. Pino Palladino was the bassist who's played bass for John Mayer. He had 2 backup female singers. He had an extra guitarist, and they're gone. And he's wiped that out and gone to a more stripped down approach. And I have no idea how it's going to work, but we'll see.
Interesting. I'm going to see that show on Friday. I'm doing the Jones Beach version, and I'm very excited for Soundgarden and Nine Inch Nails. I'm a little bummed. Our supposed to be opener, Death Grips, broke up and are now, I don't even know who they got to replace them.
We have something called 106.9, which is apparently some Brooklyn-based DJ-ish thing. I don't know. Okay. It's a concept. I don't know if it's an actual person.
It's an abstract idea.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, that'll be interesting.
So we'll see about that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Mike.
I'm not rushing to get there for the opener. I'll say that.
No, certainly not. But yeah, no, Mikey B and I are going down. Another friend and former roommate. So it'll be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. So with that, I guess do you have anything you want to plug? Are you doing anything with Kevin Reviews things? Are you any aside from Syracuse Chiefs baseball? Anything you'd like to get out there to our
Syracuse
listeners?
Chiefs, best record in AAA. That's a minor league baseball team for those that don't know.
Oh, we sport on Horns Up. We talked about we spent a solid month talking about the World Cup. So
you verbed the ball.
Yeah.
I will plug Kevin Reviews Things because there might be a new post on there soon. That's kevinreviewsthings.wordpress.com where I review things. That's the entire basis. There might be an ode to my now former 1997 Purple Honda Accord, Floyd the Purple Honda, nice. Which has been replaced with its 182,000 miles by a car with 6,000 miles. So there may be an ode to Floyd the Purple Honda soon. Also, I will plug this upcoming season of the Premier League. Come on, you Gunners.
Yes. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I'm getting pumped.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
I have to go back to Kevin Reviews Things real quick because I have to give you I have to give you credit where due. The podcasts that we used to do on Kevin Reviews Things, whether it was our angry profanity laced rant against The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, or our Breaking Bad podcast or anything. I mean, I have to say, like, in all honesty, that was what really got me into this format. And that would not have happened without Kevin Reviews Things. So I thank you for having the blog and being open to different forms of media for that blog. So
yeah, thank Peter Jackson for the first Hobbit being so fucking egregious that it inspired us to do this.
Oh man, kevinreviewsthings.wordpress.com. It's been featured in the New York Times, by the way. Just so check that out.
Sort of actually true.
Check that out. And when Kevin says he reviews things, folks, he reviews anything and everything.
The old Snapple in my coworker's desk drawer was a big hit post.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Subway pizza. I mean, it gets pretty gross sometimes.
Absolutely. But always amusing. Always amusing to read. So check that out. Check out some Syracuse Chiefs baseball. Kevin Brown, it's been a pleasure having you.
It has indeed. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Come back soon. Wasn't that fun? I had fun with that. I don't know about you guys. Aside from the occasional crackle of feedback from my cell phone, I guess when we recorded this, my cell phone wasn't far enough away from the mic. Picked up some strange frequencies. But, aside from that, I thought it went pretty well. Definitely something we want to continue, this Have You Found Metal thing. Whether, when we have guests going forward, whether it's a solo show, whether it's not a solo show. I don't know. I just always have fun subjecting outsiders to this crazy little genre we know and love so much, and just getting their reactions to it. Full credit to Kevin Brown again. Thank him very much. I thank you, Kevin, for being a good sport and keeping an open mind. Obviously you liked some of the stuff more than others, but generally speaking, he gave everything its fair chance, and we certainly appreciate that. Not always the case when you subject these outsiders to heavy metal. So props to Kevin. Again, check out his blog, kevinreviewsthings.wordpress.com. He's a talented writer and baseball broadcaster and very good friend of mine. So show him some support. Looking ahead to next week, we're going to have episode 17, and we will have a guest co-host. That's right. Our co-host emeritus, Mr. Kevin Davis, will be joining us from Baltimore. We may even have another good friend of ours joining. I don't know. We're still in the works on that, but definitely Kevin. It's going to be a full show format. So, we're back to our normal routine, more or less. And yeah, that'll be good. In the meantime, just obviously, as always, keep visiting the blog, hornsupmetalshow.com. We're going to have a Sunday side splitter. We're going to have a new top 10, you name it. We're going to be back at you with more content throughout the next couple of days. And reminder, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/hornsuppodcast, and follow us on Twitter at hornsuppodcast. We really appreciate your support on the social media front. Thank you again for listening to this episode 16. We hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And we always appreciate your time listening to the podcast. So with that, I'm going to turn it in for the night. Thanks again. And remember, live, love, plow, horns up. We'll see you next week.